Good morning. How are you? Antonio Valles with Antonio Speaks. And we are on our 36th day of the live of the 77-day live streaming challenge. Welcome. Today we're going to do a quick review of the tips that I have given you on storytelling. And I will also extend a little bit more on escalating the conflict. I forgot yesterday to give you an example. So that's what I will do today. And then tomorrow we will continue with the rest of the tips. Let's start then. Very quickly. We talked about the first tip was talk about not telling your story, but reliving your story with all the details. And we discovered that we can use a technique that is encompassed in an acronym called VAX. And that what helps us awaken the senses of the audience. VAX stands for visual, auditory, kinesthetic, and smell. When you use sentences or phrases that are related to those senses, the audience will connect with you. We also talked about dialogue and how dialogue brings life to your story. We don't want to use only narration or only dialogue. We want to use a combination of both. And then we talked about conflict. And we found out how conflict is the hook of the story and why it's so important to bring conflict immediately to the story, as soon as possible to the story. And then we talked about escalating the conflict. When we escalate the conflict, it's the audience becomes even more hooked because they are wondering when is that conflict going to end. It's like a movie, a drama or suspense movie when they are introducing conflict after conflict after conflict. We talked about the Titanic, of how the water kept on rising, and that created escalating the conflict. And the story that I want to give you as an example for escalating the conflict is a continuation of the story that I told you, remember? When the conflict in that story was when Kevin called me and said, "Hey, Antonio, sorry to interrupt you, but we had to close the business and you don't have a job anymore." After he told me that, I asked myself, and now what? After 38 years of working for this company, now I don't have a job and it all ends with a phone call. What am I going to do? How am I going to find a job at my age? Yes, I'm old, I'm bald, and I'm not that bad looking. But even if I find a job, I might have to start at the bottom. Do you remember when you started at the bottom? For me, it wasn't that long ago. Sometime in the last century. As you can see, I introduced some additional conflict. I escalated the conflict. And that made the story even more interesting. In your own stories, introduce the conflict and then escalate it, and you will see how the audience connects with you. Thank you for listening. Tomorrow, we are going to continue with our tips, and it's going to be about the cure and about the guru. See you tomorrow. Bye bye.